morning, everyone. I'm Hilary Rongabilia, the first reporter of this week. Now let's go to my topic, which is the perspective on consumer behavior. First, let's discuss the consumer perception. So, what do you think is consumer perception?
This is a marketing concept that encompasses a customer's impression, awareness, or consciousness about a company or its offerings. This is how a customer collects information about a product and interprets the information to make a meaningful image about a particular product. So when a customer sees advertisements, promotions, reviews, feedback relating to a product, they develop an impression about it. Let's give an example. There's a two retail clothing stores, Clothing Store A and Clothing Store B. So Clothing Store A, they display their clothes in a crowded racks using low-quality plastic hangers. Makikita ng customer yun and maaaring pumasok sa isip niya na yung mga binibenta ni Clothing Store A is low quality. Itong si Clothing Store B naman na nagbebenta rin ng same quality ng damit ni Clothing Store A, they display their clothes in a mannequins and good quality attractive hangers. So doon papasok yung perception ni customer na high quality yung mga damit dito kay Clothing Store B kaysa kay Clothing Store A. Though in reality talaga, same lang ng quality and brand yung dalawang clothing store. Malaki yung impact ng customer's perception sa isang brand. So, we should always present a product or services to a customer na sa unang tingin pa lang nila talaga maganda na yung papasok sa isip nila. Now, let's go to the main topic, which is the perspective on consumer behavior. Consumer behavior may be defined as a study of human behavior within the consumer role and includes all the steps in decision-making process. It refers to the action of the consumers in the marketplace and the underlying motives for those actions. Marketers expect that by understanding what causes the consumers to buy particular goods and services, they will be able to determine which products are needed in the marketplace, which are obsolete, and how best to present a good to the consumers. Domestically, marketing scholars have employed a variety of techniques and concepts, including the cultural approach to study consumer behavior. It is a questionable practice to rely on culture as the sole determinant of behavior or as the only concept that largely, if not entirely, explains behavior. Yes, cultural undoubtedly affects the psychological and social processes and thus affects consumer behavior. However, too much emphasis is placed on a single concept, which is culture. Consumer behavior research must include international dimensions. Now let's discuss the major behavioral science relevant to consumer study. There are three. First is the psychology, second is sociology, and the last one is cultural anthropology. Let's discuss the first one, which is psychology. So psychology is the study of individual and interpersonal behavior. Here in psychology, it discusses how our thoughts, beliefs, feelings, and perceptions influence how we buy and relate to goods and services. Purchase becomes a function of psychological view of products, and the consumer buys a product not only for consumption, but also because of a perception of how a product can be used to communicate with other people. Next is sociology. Sociology is the study of groups and human interaction. Kung yung psychology study of individuals, itong sociology naman study of groups. Group consisting of a set of individuals interact over time is important because it can exert significant influence on a person's preferences and consumption behavior. For marketers, it is useful to view consumer as a group. Example is a family. Family often makes a purchase decision that affects all members of the family group. Last is the cultural anthropology. This is the study of human culture. The analytical perspective may be quite large. Culture involves an aggregate social category level, and the social categories are significant in the sense that they influence consumers' cognitive and personality development. The concept from this discipline usually included in the analysis of consumer behavior are culture, subculture, and social class.
Hello everyone, I'm Micaela Tuling, and today I'm excited to talk to you about motivation and learning. Now, motivation and learning are both psychological factors that affect consumer decision making and also marketing strategies. So in order to better understand the buying habits of consumers, these two elements are important to recognize. Now, motivation is what drives consumers to make decisions based on their own wants and needs. It refers to the processes that cause people to behave the way that they do. Why do some people choose to buy a bicycle or motorcycle while others prefer luxurious car? So for the most part, there is a reason. That's called motivation. Now, behind this motivation is the goal to satisfy a need. As marketers, it's important to understand that need. According to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, human needs are arranged to the hierarchy. Once the basic needs are fulfilled, a person moves on to acquire the needs. This is when the need becomes a motive and urges a person to seek satisfaction by getting it. Motives may be classified as rational and non-rational. When someone makes a final buying decision, they are influenced by one of two types of triggers. Think about the last thing you bought. What made you buy it? Did you need it, or was it bought on impulse? Say you bought a jacket. Was it because it would keep you warm? Was it comfortable? Did you buy it because you like the style of it? Or did you buy it because the brand is well known? These are some questions that can determine whether your purchase was rational or non-rational. Now, rational motives involve logical analysis and reasoning of the purchase before deciding to buy. So in this buying motive, the consumer reasons for buying a particular product are based on logic or judgment rather than on emotion. Rational motives are based mainly on objective criteria such as price, durability, and economy in operation. For example, let's say you needed a car for your new job, so you went to the shops intending to buy a new car and found one you like. It has the right material and it isn't that expensive, so you buy the car. This would be called a rational decision. People who are most likely to make a decision based on rational motives are mostly low or middle class people because they are always concerned about their income level, durability of the product, and efficiency in operation. Next is non-rational motives. Non-rational motives are those motives which persuade the consumer to do impulsive purchases without reason or logic. So in this buying motive, the consumer is overshadowed by his emotional senses to buy a product and fails to look at the logical part. Non-rational motives focuses on subjective criteria like prestige, comfort, and pleasure, so it's purely for pleasure. For example, if you didn't need a new car and there was a new style of car and you like the brand and you bought it purely for status or for the feeling of joy of having a luxury car, then this would be called a non-rational decision. People who are most likely to make purchase decisions based on non-rational motives can be considered as the people who has a high income level or high-class people. For example, a successful businessman. In other words, this type of consumers will not think about their income level and efficiency in operations, since the most important factors for them are social status, pride, comfort, and pleasure. Another psychological factor that affects consumer decision-making is learning. Behavior also has a learning dimension which highlights the importance of past experience. Now, learning refers to the process by which consumers change their behavior after they experience a product. Why you continue to buy from brands and service you've used before. Why you often order the same thing from the menu. It's just easy. You've tried it worked, and you learned that you like the brand. This is because individuals are not born consumers. They learn to become consumers. So all consumption habits are all learned. In the global marketing environment, all countries have their own unique sets of customs and taboos. So it is important for marketers to learn about the learning process so that they will know what is acceptable and unacceptable for their marketing programs. For example, in Japan, the number 4 is considered unlocked, and products packages containing 4 items are avoided by many consumers. Another example is Baskin-Robbins in Vietnam. Vietnamese are used to linger at cafe tables and are not used to having to pay immediately. So when they were asked to go to the counter, some felt insulted and left, because they felt that Baskin-Robbins did not trust them by asking them to pay for the ice cream immediately. Therefore, a marketer should recognize the learning process to understand how to adapt approach and marketing activities appropriately.
Good day and mabuhay. I am your Reporter Kim, who will be discussing the third and the fourth factors that affect consumer behavior in psychological and social dimensions. But before we start with our discussion, let us first take a short game called This or That Clothing Style Edition. So I'm gonna be showing you some photos, and all you have to do is to pick one which clothing style is somewhat close to your preference. Ready? Let's start. So for our first set of photos, these are for the girls. Which one are you going to choose? The retro style or the classic skirt style? Already picked one? Now, it's time for the boys. Which clothing style are you going to pick? Now, let us take a look at your answers. Your answer or chosen photo represents your personality, whether it's your specific style or the clothes combination you chose is close to your personal preference and personality. Your outfit, your expression. This expression is changing because of your personality. We are all free to wear what we want, but do not judge a book by its cover. An individual's personality is shown through their sense of style, whether it's casual, classic, chic, trendy, comfy, or whatever you call to your style. Talking about personality, let us now define the third factor which affects the consumer behavior in terms of psychological and social dimensions. Personality is the individual characteristics that make a person unique as well as consistent in adjustments to a changing environment. It is an integrated system that holds attitude, motivation, and perception together. It is derived from a Latin word meaning personal or relating to a person. Those characteristics that were mentioned earlier are the attributes, traits, qualities, and mannerisms that distinguish one individual from the other. It is the inner factor that influences an individual's product and brand choice. Personality is more of an internal factor, but both internal and external factors influence the behavior of consumers. But how would we know the personalities of our consumers? This is when personality study enters. Major marketers study and utilize the connection of personality to buying behavior habits. Personality study. This study is to understand the buyer habits and has long been a subject of interest to marketers due to the assumption that product purchase are the extension of a consumer's personality. Thus, personality of a target consumer is important for marketers to know about. It shows the individual choices for various products and brands. Products are often created to have brand personalities that marketers believe
match the primary personality traits of those they see as the best prospects for purchasing the product or service. To study personality is to study person as a whole, not only the individual elements of a person. Many approaches have been adapted by researchers to study the personality of an individual, which had come up to various theories of personality, including the psychoanalytic theory by Sigmund Freud, the basis of most personality studies. The id, ego, and superego describe the activities and interactions of the mental life of a person, developing complex behavior of human being as well as its buying behavior. Well, basically, personality has something to do with our buying habits, and studying about it gives opportunities to marketers to make their target customers satisfied, as well as the advertisers to have good promotion and communication with their target audiences. Do you ever wonder how we differ from each other? Some are talkative, some are quiet, some like going outside, and some are couch potatoes enjoying at home. Although there are many ways to describe someone's personality, the best way to distinguish individual differences is by through understanding his or her personality traits. This is according to some of personologists. Personality traits. These are relatively stable qualities, but they do vary in degree from person to person. It reflects people's characteristic patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. To easily understand, take note of these criteria that characterize personality traits: consistency, stability, and individual differences. It's difficult to make generalizations about personality traits among people of a particular country because personality study applies to a person rather than to a group. Talking about people of a particular country, there is this concept which is applied to personality study of a specific country. This is called the national character. National character is the concept which states that people of each nation have distinctive, enduring pattern of behavior and or personality characteristics. It is used to describe personality characteristics and unique lifestyles found among the populations of a particular national state, or simply, it is the cultural behavior. Each country has distinctive characters. For example, the people of England, they are known to be highly impulse restrained and unassertive, while the Koreans are driven by two complementary passions. Han is the bitterness and Jong for devoted love. Korea displays a mixture of ancient and modern Asian cultures as well as Japan, but differs also in some ways. But let us not forget our own traits. Filipinos are known for being hospitable, friendly, outgoing, good-natured, witty, generous, loving, and such. This is why it's more fun in the Philippines because of these personalities. But when it comes to decision making, we all know that the bahala na trait is common when dealing with difficulties and shortcomings. Nevertheless, remember that Filipinos take their time in doing things or in making decisions. Consumer ethnocentrism. This is adapted from the general concept of ethnocentrism. Due to patriotic and nationalistic sentiments as well as personal level of prejudice against imports, some consumers feel that it is inappropriate or even immoral to buy imported products. Sa kulturang Pilipino, ito ay ang pagtangkilik ng sariling atin. It is a psychological concept that describes how consumers purchase based on the country of origin. Local brands over foreign ones. This does affect the purchase intention of a consumer. Sadly, it can't be denied that in our country, most Filipinos tend to patronize imported products because of colonial mentality. Some think that foreign products are better, superior, and have advantages or benefits, which cause the rejection of local products. This colonial mentality in our country has two dimensions, according to an article. First is lack of patriotism, active awareness, appreciation, and love of the Philippines. The second one is the actual preference over imported things. Therefore, overall, consumer ethnocentrism affects the market. Marketers must consider a country's history, national character, and cognitive styles. Let us now talk about Hofstede's national culture. There is this professor who also is a Dutch social psychologist who conducted this research, which he has strongly indicated that ethnocentric management based on a particular country's value system are untenable or indefensible. With his study of work-related values in 50 countries, he has come up with 4 largely cultural independent dimensions. First one, individualism versus collectivism. Second is large or small power distance. Third is strong or weak uncertainty avoidance. And fourth is the masculinity versus femininity. The first one is individualism versus collectivism, or IDV. It refers to the strength of the ties that people have to others within their community. Collectivist countries always show larger power distance, but individualist countries don't always show small power distance. Let us define individualism and collectivism. Individualism and collectivism are both cultural value dimensions. Individualism emphasizes individual goals and rights, whereas collectivism focuses on group goals, personal relationships, and benefits of the whole. A country with high IDV score has a weak interpersonal connection among those who are not part of a core family. People take less responsibility for others' actions and outcomes. This country emphasizes I over we. Low IDV score countries, this is where people take responsibility for one another's well-being. There is a tightly integrated relationships tie extended families and others into in-groups. An example of this is Panama and also Guatemala. High PDI score. This indicates that a society accepts an equal, hierarchical distribution of power and that people understand their place in the system. An example country of this is Malaysia. While low PDI score, power is shared and is widely dispersed. Society members don't accept situations where power is distributed unequally. The third one, Uncertainty Avoidance Index, or UAI, or Strong or Weak Uncertainty Avoidance. This describes how well people can cope with anxiety, expresses the degree to which the members of a society feel uncomfortable with uncertainty and ambiguity. High UAI means people attempt to make life predictable and controllable as possible, as it offers security and avoid risk. An example country is Greece. Low UAI. It is a country that is more relaxed, open or inclusive, and accept uncertainty and be able to take risk easily, which is an example country of this is Singapore. The fourth and the last independent dimension is masculinity versus femininity, or MAS. In MAS, there is a distribution of roles between men and women. In masculine societies, men are expected to be dominant and behave assertively, while in feminine societies, there's a great deal of overlap between male and female roles, and modesty is perceived as a virtue. Women are assumed to have service-oriented and caring roles. It is clearly differentiating between what men should do and what women are supposed to do. Countries with high MAS exhibit soft masculine values and behaviors, just like in Japan and Austria, while countries with low MAS are the people focusing on managing through discussion, consensus, compromise, and negotiation, just like in Greece. These dimensions of national culture literature review led Nakata and Sivakumar to propose that these dimensions mentioned earlier affect new product development, both positively and negatively. One study of 10 countries and 6 regions found that cultural individualism and regional socioeconomics affect brand image strategies. Are these dimensions of national culture have marketing relevance? The answer is yes. Research says that culture is a fuzzy, racing definitional, conceptual, and operational obstacles for research on it and on its consumer behavior influences. Hofstede's framework constitutes a simple, practical, and usable shortcut to the integration of cultural studies. It helps the marketers in identifying cross-cultural differences which they could later use in formulating marketing strategies. Now let's go on to the last subtopic of personality study: clustering, commonality, and diversity. Commonality is a similarity, meanwhile diversity is a difference. There's a study named Project Globe, or Global Leadership in Organizational Behavior Effectiveness, which is a collaboration of scholars in all parts of the world. This is a study of thousands of middle managers in food processing, finance, and telecommunication industries in 61 countries. This Project Globe focuses on 9 dimensions of national cultures, namely performance orientation, future orientation, assertiveness, power distance, humane orientation, institutional collectivism, in-group collectivism, uncertainty avoidance, and gender egalitarianism. If Hofstede's framework is about cultural differences, this Project Globe is the clustering of the similarity and difference of national cultures. Comparing it to Hofstede's framework, this Project Globe is somewhat different. Hofstede's framework only talks about the cultural differences, while on this Project Globe, there is the clustering of the commonality and diversity of national cultures. We are now down to the fourth factors or element that affects consumer behavior in psychological and social dimensions, the psychographics. Psychographics is also known as lifestyle or AIO, or activities, interests, and opinions study. It is also a quantitative analysis of consumers' lifestyles and activities with the purpose of relating these variables to buying behavior. This analysis encompasses both the strength of the qualitative nature of Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic sophistication of trait and factor theories. Questions normally included in psychographic studies are those related to demographics, personality traits, and activities such as media habits, retail patronage, and general interests. There are 5 distinct groups of consumers worldwide according to Backers-Pivogel-Bates. These are results from a psychographic study. So the 5 distinct groups are strivers with 26%, achievers of 22%, pressured 13%, adapters 18%, and traditionals 16%. In addition to identifying lifestyle variations within a country, marketers may also identify lifestyle groups on a worldwide basis. Thus, this means that psychographic study is an effective analysis of consumers' lifestyles and activities with the purpose of relating these variables to buying behavior.
Hi, I'm Kieran Lance M. Chopes, and ang mga naka-assign sa akin topics are perceptions and attitude. Hey kuya, ano ba ibig sabihin ng perception tsaka ng attitude na yan? Perception, it is the process of interpreting nervous impulses or stimuli received that the brain must organize and give meaning through cognitive interpretation. Kumbaga, ito yung nakikita ng isang tao sa isang bagay at binibigyan niya ng meaning kung ano yung interpretation niya doon. Attitude, it is the learned tendency to respond to an object in a consistently or unfavorable way. It consists of 3 components which are the cognition, affect, and conation or behavioral intention. Pero hindi ko pa rin masyado mag-gets, kuya. Ganun? Sige, para mas maintindihan mo, halika't makinig ka dito. So first is perception. Perception includes the 5 senses: touch, sight, sound, smell, and taste. It also includes what is known as proprioception, a set of senses involving the ability to detect changes in body positions and movements. It also involves the cognitive processes required to process information, such as recognizing the face of a friend or detecting a familiar scent. Just like this example, Americans prefer a rare cooked steak because they want to retain the moisture and the flavor of the steak, while Asians doesn't believe in that. Most of Asians prefer a well-done cook on a steak because they believe that a rare cooked steak is unsafe. That's why Asians want to cook the food well done. Next is formation of perception. Keep in mind that perceptions are formed through a highly subjective and selective process. The consumer's cognitive map of the environment is not a photograph of that physical environment. It is instead a partial and personal construction of a situation in which certain cues. Therefore, No object or product is ever perceived exactly in the way it actually appears. Example for this is some of the tarpaulin of a burger shop. The image in the tarpaulin contains a so juicy patty with overload sticky cheese and some fresh veggies. But in reality, it is the opposite. But take note, it is just a marketing strategy. Ginagawa lang talaga nilang mas kaakit-akit ang product nila sa commercial upang makaakit at para tangkilikin at puntahan sila ng mga consumers or customers. Next is country of origin and perceived product quality. One of the cues often used by consumers in evaluating products is where a product is made. It is not unusual for consumers to categorize countries, example rich, poor, developed, developing, and to use these categories to judge product quality. There is evidence of country category effect in the sense that consumers use stereotyping in typing product, classes, and brands. Example for this is may mga issues or instances tayong na-encounter na kapag gawang China ay madaling masira or marupok siya na klase ng gamit. Kaya madaming di tumatangkilik sa mga gawa ng China. Mas gusto ngayon ng tao yung gawang Amerika kasi subok na ito at ng mga tao sa tibay at quality ng gawa nila. So my next topic is attitude. Attitude is a set of beliefs, behaviors, perceptions, or emotions towards a place, person, object, or an activity. From the marketing perspective, attitude can be defined as the set of beliefs and emotions a consumer holds for a particular brand, product, or service which determine the perception of that consumer towards the former. So para mas maintindihan pa natin kung ano yung attitude, here are the three components of attitude. First is cognition. The relationship between an individual and an object is not neutral. The reaction to the object is either favorable or unfavorable. Example, as you can see in the image, most people in this generation uses Joy dishwashing liquid to wash plates because scientists prove that it can clean and kill germs on the plate. Unlike sa Tide na sabong panlaba na ginagamit noon ng ating mga lola-lola na hindi nakakatanggal ng germs sa platong pinagkakainan natin. Next component of attitude is affective. The emotional or feeling segment of an attitude. It is related to the statement which affects another person. It deals with feelings or emotions that are brought to the surface about something such as fear or hate. Example for this is smoking. People who do not smoke saw the result of smoking years ago until now, which causing many diseases or worse is death. Kaya most of the people who hates the smell or literally the smoking itself is because natatakot sila or ayaw nila mangyari sa kanilang mga ito. Mas pinipili nila na wag na lang subukan upang hindi nila kaadikan. Hindi rin matanggal ng gobyerno ang sigarilyo sa market kasi malaki ang nakukuha nilang tax dito kung kaya't naglagay na lang sila ng mga pictures ng mga sakit na nakukuha sa paninigarilyo sa mga box nito upang paalalhanan ng mga tao na tumigil na sa paninigarilyo o kaya't bawasan po. The last component of attitude is behavioral. An attitude consists of a person's tendencies to behave in a particular way towards an object. It refers to that part of attitude which reflects the intention of a person in the short run or long run. Example for this is smoking in library or other private facilities. Sino nga naman ng matinong tao na magsisigarilyo sa loob ng isang library? Pinagbabawal ito sapagkat tulad nga ng sinabi ko kanina, may mga tao na ayaw makaamoy ng usok ng sigarilyo or may mga tao na may sakit na hika kapag nakakaamoy nito. Bawal din itong tambayan ng mga magsisigarilyo dahil ito ay para lamang sa nag-aaral or naghahanap ng impormasyon. So the attitude here is that when people saw a sign, the response is to obey it because it is the rule there, and that is the behavioral of a person's attitude. In addition, in an organization, attitudes are important for their goal or objective to succeed. Each one of these components is very different from the other and they can build upon one another to form our attitudes and therefore affect how we relate to the world. Thank you.
So, hi guys, my name is Maria Larging from the SBE MM3-1 and my report is all about social class and reference group. Hope you'll listen.
So let's start my topic with social class. Well, social class is a major influence on one's purchasing habits and consumer behavior. It is considered as an external factor on consumer behavior because it is not about feelings or knowledge. So ayun nga sabi doon, hindi siya based sa feelings or knowledge because it is mostly based on income, on wealth, yung estado mo sa buhay. In social class, people are usually grouped according to income, wealth, education, or type of occupation. It is more likely determined on one's disposable income. Nade-determine yung social class dun sa disposable income ng tao. Kumbaga kung saan nila ginagastos yun. For example, yung mga tao sa upper class, sila yung mga tao na merong mataas na disposable income. Yung pera na meron sila, ginagastos nila sa mga bagay na minsan hindi naman nila kailangan or binibili nila yung mas mataas yung presyo kahit meron namang mas mura na brand para doon. In social class, merong tatlong class. Yung una is yung upper class, yung middle class, and yung lower class. Yung upper class, ayun yung mas mataas, and then the middle and yung pinakamababa is yung lower class. So let's move on to the next topic, which is reference group. These are the groups that consumers compare themselves to or associate with. They have a strong influence on purchasing patterns. Yung reference group, ayun yung mga tao sa paligid mo, kahit sinong tao sa paligid mo na nagko-comment about the product or the brand. For example, meron kang gustong itry na brand ng noodles, tapos sinabi ng kaibigan mo na natikman niya na yon na hindi masarap, hindi siya worth it bilhin. Syempre, di ba sinabi niya yun, friend mo yun, so maniniwala ka na ganun nga yun, hindi mo na bibilhin. Ang reference group, nakaka-apekto sila doon sa buying pattern kasi yung opinion na sasabihin nila, nakaka-apekto yun doon sa tao na gustong itry yung product mo. It's either maganda yung sasabihin nila or hindi. Anyone around you can all act as a reference group. It works through the statements of anyone around you about the product. The comment of the reference group can affect the consumer. Gaya ng sinabi ko kanina, kung anong sasabihin ng mga reference group mo sa'yo, ayun yung parang nagiging idea mo doon sa product, yung magiging way para mag-decision ka kung bibilihin mo ba yung product or hindi.
Hi everyone, my name is Angelica Sibiana, and for today I will be discussing family and opinion leadership.
Family can be distinguished as nuclear or extended. Nuclear or conjugal family is a narrow definition of a family. It only encompasses the husband, the wife, and their offspring, which is usually common in the United States of America, while extended or consanguine family extends beyond the nuclear family, including grandparents, aunts, uncles, and other relatives. A family can be vertically extended when it includes several generations. It can also be horizontally extended when such family members includes uncle, aunts, and other cousins. Family-oriented culture. Thus, non-Americans count vertical and horizontal relatives of either the husband, wife, or both as a part of their family. It is not uncommon for a son to live in his parents' home even after getting married. When his parents become old, it will become his responsibility to take care of his parents, the home, and the business. In such country, nursing homes are relatively rare, and the placement of elderly or ill parents in a home for the aged is frowned upon. The Chinese culture emphasizes familial over private self. Attainment of family-oriented goals is a measure of self-realization and self-fulfillment. Boundaries of familial self may include romantic partners and close friends who are like family. In this context, there is no need for reciprocity. Family can be distinguished by its characteristics. First, a family allows its members ample opportunity to interact with one another on a face-to-face basis as a counselor and information provider. Second, a family is a consuming unit in the sense that most members share the consumption of many products, especially those that are durable or that affect family budget. Third, individual needs are usually subordinated to family needs. And lastly, one member is often assigned the primary duty of buying products for other users. thus acting as a gatekeeper or purchasing agent. Americans and non-Americans raise their family in very different ways. Americans emphasize individual freedom, where children are thought to be self-sufficient and independent, while in Japan, China, and Hispanic countries, family is the main focal point. The Japanese feel a strong sense of responsibility and obligation toward their families, and these obligations predominate the family decisions. In Japan, there's a concept of nepotism. It is the practice among those with power or influence of favoring relatives or friends, especially by giving them jobs, giving relatives special treatments in the workplace. A marketer must determine the kind of decision-making that is relevant to the product. Once that fact is known, the marketer can direct promotional effort toward the party making the purchase decision. It is thus useful to consider and to assess the relative influence of each spouse in the decision-making process. The next topic would be opinion leadership. These are individuals who are able to exert a significant influence on other members in such a way as to affect their thinking and behavior in a desired direction. In the context of consumer behavior, their opinions about products can affect subsequent purchases made by others. In marketing products overseas, they should attempt to appeal to opinion leaders. In general, these are likely to be people who command respect from others. For example, in Ghana, government workers gain better cooperation and reception by asking for village witch doctors' approval before inoculating people or spraying hots to fight malaria. In developing countries, it is a good strategy to market new ideas to teachers, monks, or priests first because their opinions influence the acceptance of these ideas by others. When it's undoubtful who the opinion leaders are, marketers should try to identify those with influence and affluence. Influence is someone or something possessing power over others' action or viewpoints, while affluence is someone who's possessing wealth and enjoying the comfort that go with it. BMW, for example, sells its cars at a discount to diplomats, believing that its target consumers will take notice of the kind of the cars driven by those in power. In foreign countries, business periodicals and English language newspaper are usually an effective means of reaching government and business leaders who are potential opinion leaders. And that ends my presentation for family and opinion leadership.
Hi everyone, I'm Ermi Disandrino and the last reporter of this group. I'm going to discuss about the diffusion process of innovation and the overall conclusion of the lesson for this chapter. Diffusion process of innovation. Diffusion process of innovation is an acceptance over time of a product or idea by the consumer. Diffusion of innovation is the process by which new products are adopted or not by their intended audiences. Innovators possess certain characteristics that distinguish them from non-innovators. Innovators are frequently opinion leaders, and it is thus desirable to identify and contact innovators. The diffusion process is not always stable to any culture. It varies from culture to culture. For example, is the diffusion of internet differs between the USA and Japan. There are factors that make the differences of diffusion in internet between USA and Japan. Japan have collective culture, values high uncertainty avoidance, has large in power distance, and slow in adoption process, while USA has national culture, has low uncertainty avoidance, has high in individualism, and high in masculinity. In collectivist culture countries, a marketing message should emphasize social acceptance na product local origin, while in national culture countries, any product innovation are receptive. Culture not only affects the diffusion process in general, but it also exerts a great deal or influence on the adoption of a product in particular. A product that is suitable in one country may be totally inappropriate in another places or country. The Italian and Asian preference for fresh meat and vegetables has hampered the acceptance of frozen food. In Italy and Southeast Asia, markets open and close early and shoppers who wish to select the best items must get to market very early in the morning. By the early afternoon, the market is ready to be closed with only a few inferior left. As explanation by the International Product Life Cycle concept, a new product is not adopted at the same time or at the same rate in various countries. Diffusion rate should be based on segmentation criteria for each target market. Special consideration must be given to certain ethnic groups, age levels, social classes, geographic areas, and so on. Innovators should be classified as the first 10% of a particular target market, regardless of the percentage of adoption in other countries or on a worldwide scale.
Conclusion. Consumer behavior as a discipline of study has been researched extensively in the USA at both the macro and micro levels. All too frequently, studies that compare consumer characteristics and behavior to cultural differences. This convenient approach is inadequate by itself and does not enhance the understanding of consumption behavior overseas. Instead of explicitly or implicitly attempting to use culture to explain most variation in consumption, researchers should redirect their attention towards smaller unit of analysis. This requires a study of psychological concepts as well as social concepts which are not based solely on cultural determinants. At the psychological level, relevant concepts such as motivation, learning, personality, psychographics, perception, and attitude should be closely examined. As a marketer, we should not expect consumers everywhere to be motivated in the same way. Consumers need changes across countries, also the level of need or importance of a particular product. The varying motives that occur due in part to individual personality traits and lifestyle. Stating cultural environment affects the consumer behavior is already common. At the social level, it is more important to list specifically the cultural norms in our country and to understand why those norms vary from country to country. Consumer preferences depend on how a product fits into the cultural circumstances and whether the product will have the approval of consumers' reference group, social classes, and family. In conclusion, marketers and researchers should guard against using culture as a catch-all term and should not use it on a wholesale basis to explain overseas behavior. This goal requires researchers to be more specific and rigorous in their investigation by extending the application of relevant psychological and social concepts to their international scene.